Chapter 2 of the book Path to Enlightenment. What is Nibbana? Unbinding or Nibbana is a super mundane state of mind and therefore a challenge to understand with the mundane state of mind. Before we tell you what Nibbana or enlightenment is, we have to tell you what is not. This is because there are some misconceptions regarding enlightenment which need to be corrected. Enlightenment is not a place or location. You need to understand that all suffering occurs as a result of birth. Therefore, if there is no birth, then there is no suffering. That is what we have to understand about Nibbana, because it does not physically exist. It is entirely a mental state that is dependent on the ability of one's mind. The teachings of the Buddha, that is known as Dhamma, are based on cause and effect. We will have to understand Nibbana based on the application of cause and effect. If the cause of suffering is birth, then the elimination of birth should end suffering. That is what we have to accomplish to realize Nibbana. The Lord Buddha found that the cause of this suffering was birth. He also realized or discovered the path to stop this birth or rebecoming. Nibbana is a mind released from rebecoming. The Buddha saw as endless cycle of beings born into various realms of planes of existence. He saw beings born in a certain realms, living in that realm and passing away to be reborn in another realm. This cycle of rebecoming continued perpetually without end. We call this cycle of birth, living, death and rebirth or rebecoming samsara. The Buddha found the way to stop this process, this cycle of birth, death and rebecoming. We will consider the three visible components of the samsara: birth, living and death, for better understanding. These are the three things happening in samsara. In the present life, when one is born as any being in any realm, they cannot avoid the living and the death. So we need to realize that the only stage we are able to stop in the rebecoming or rebirth. Therefore, we need to investigate what needs to be done and how it needs to be done to realize this state of mind, Nibbana, in the present life. Simply speaking, Nibbana is the state of mind required for the ending or stopping of abandoning of re-becoming. So we need to understand what is birth. Since our goal is the abandoning of birth or re-becoming, it is clear now that we need to have a comprehensive understanding of what the Buddha defined as birth. One also has to know what he meant by the ending of birth. We will use a simple colloquial language at this point in time for ease of understanding. As per the teachings of the Buddha, we can say that the birth is the becoming together of two components. A tangible component called body, form, or known in Pali term rupa as per the Buddha, and an intangible component called life, mind, or citta as per the Buddha. Body or form may vary based on the realm of existence, as discussed in the chapter 1. When a body comes into being, the components that we call life or the mind gets attached to it, and then we refer to it as a living being. When body gets attached with life, we call it birth. When these two components, body and life, are together, we call it a living being. When these two separate, then we say that the living being has died or passed away. The physical body on this own does not have life. You will see this clearly when you amputate or remove an organ of the body. There is no life in the part that was separated or removed. From the moment of birth, the body decays continuously until it can no longer sustain life. Life then passes away and gets drawn to or enters into another body. We call this re-becoming. There is no physical component traveling from birth to birth or being reborn. It is only the life or mind, the intangible component, that transmigrates. We have introduced you to the process in conventional and colloquial language of body and life for ease of understanding. We now need to study this body and life phenomenon in detail using the language used by the Buddha, form, that is the rupa, and mind, that is the citta, to have a better understanding of its nature and properties, and to stop, eliminate, or abandon re-becoming. The Buddha said that the appearance of aggregates known as skandhas and the sense base known as ayatana is the arising of the birth of a living being. Wherever there is sense bases, there is aggregates as contact with external objects results in the formation of aggregates. We will begin by identifying the six sense bases and their functions. We will discuss the skandhas, or we call the aggregates, later. The six sense organs, or known as ayatana. The living beings in these various realms may have up to a maximum of 6 sense organs or sense bases. Some beings in the 31 realms described in the previous chapter may not have all the 6 sense organs, as the human realm has all 6 sense organs. We will examine all 6 of them. The 6 organs or bases, their functions and outcomes are: 1. Eye. To gather images and color from outside, that we call seeing. Number 2. Ear. To gather sound from outside, that is known as hearing. Number 3. Nose. To gather odor from outside, that is known as smelling. Number 4. Tongue. To gather flavor from outside, known as tasting. Number 5. Body. To gather tactile sensation from outside, known as body feeling. Number 6. The brain. To gather thoughts from outside, that is known as remembering. At this point, you need to understand how the brain gathers thoughts from the outside. When each of the 5 sensing organs other than the brain is functioning, it creates a thought within the respective organ. This thought then becomes the outside or external thought for the brain. These thoughts are referred to as chittaja rupa in Pali. It is referred to an external thought as it is external to the brain, just a sound is external to the ear and odor is external to the nose. This thought then recalls similar or relevant material from the brain, resulting in remembering. In addition to remembering, the brain has the special ability to construct thoughts within the brain. These thoughts or actions of brain are referred to as thinking. You better clearly understand that there are 2 functions in the brain. One is remembering and other one is thinking. In a living being, these 6 sense organs act as processors and they gather information from outside and produce 6 senses referred to as seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, body feeling, and remembering. When any of these senses arises, there are 3 main actions produced by the mind. There are the actions of thinking, that is development of thoughts, and verbalizing, that is the words and actions, that is doing deeds. If and only if any of these three abilities are present, do we accept that the being is alive. If we consider any being in any of the 31 realms of existence, these are the only actions which any one of them can perform for their entire life, regardless of one is human, an animal, a ghost, a demon, a god, or a Brahman. If all of these actions are not present, then we consider the being is dead. We live our entire life to control or perform these three actions. We have to clearly understand about these three main actions, that is the thinking, verbalizing, and doing.